Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. We're live on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. Alan Ruff, Tam McManus and Alison McConnell are here with me. Thank you to you for joining us on the YouTube channel. Thousands and thousands of people subscribing now and of course watching the programme on a regular basis Monday to Friday. You'll get opinion, you'll also get lots of unique content. We've got Pat Nevin coming out and a one-to-one. We've got a sit down with James McPake, very honest James McPake, talking about his time at Dundee and what is in the future for him, so well worthy of that. And James also will assess over the weekend the quarterfinals in the Scottish Cup as well. So there's lots of unique content to cast your eye over if you join the football family on PLZ Soccer. The weekend, as ever, Saturday and Sunday, lots to talk about as well. Thanks to so many people who've downloaded the PLZ Soccer app, because we have not only all the breaking football stories, but you can watch the show live on there and you can post messages to us. Thanks to Dave Smith, who says, I'm a die-hard Dumbarton fan. I get tired of Premier League managers like Graham Alexander, Robbie Neilson and Jim Goodwin continually bitching about we should have had a penalty or it was never a penalty when they don't win. I guess it's just job justification. God help us if VAR comes in and Celtic and Rangers fans find out if a decision goes against them that the VAR guy was seen in a Celtic or a Rangers pub in his lifetime. Only in our country. Thank goodness I can bitch at a Suns game and still have a laugh. Dave Smith is too intelligent for this programme, Ruffy.
I think VAR will be coming for Aaron. The person of an island somewhere, so you can't get him.
Yeah, you know, to be fair, there's big Rangers fans up in Aaron.
No, you'll get invited to the gig.
The Aaron Loyal's up there, Ruffy. I mean, calm your jets, will you? Anyway, Peter, I was a huge fan of Alan Ruff. Can you ask him what he rates as his best performance for Scotland? I'm sure he won't see this email prior to it. That would involve him caring or reading. So he's got a particular game that he thinks was one of your best, because you could have been 2 or 3 down. You were absolutely magnificent in it, but the team went on to win. I wonder if you share the same view as him.
I would possibly say the game he's talking about is Scotland versus Israel in Israel.
3-1.
No, 1-0. Kenny Dalglish goal.
No, he's talking about the 3-1 at Hampden. He thought you were great in that one as well.
Against Israel?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'll take his word for it.
Brilliant, Ruffy. Absolutely. Anyway, nice that somebody actually nailed it, Ruffy.
Yes. That, I thought the Israel one was more important because we beat them in the.
This is also Israel, though.
Yeah, no, but away from home.
Yeah.
Away from home.
So both games you were brilliant.
Yeah. Fantastic.
When you have so many good games, it's hard to pinpoint one.
Absolutely.
I get that now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so difficult to remember anyone other than Kenny Dalglish playing with you. So this one here from Tommy Turnbull, he says, first time contacting the show, but I've been watching it for years. I'd like to comment on the Old Firm Australia debate, being in Oz, visiting my brother who's been there for years. I witnessed it myself. Rangers and Celtic fans watch the games together and there's plenty of banter, but none of the hatred and sectarian bile we witness here in Scotland. And I think that's the thing about it. I mean, other than people who actually are going to fly out there, the people who live in Australia who will go to that game are not in any way, they'll support their side, there'll be the banter, they'll be friends because they're all expats. There's not the same poison that we have in this country. So that's a good point.
Yeah, I think it's great. I still can't get my head around why the certain Rangers and Celtic supporters don't want to go ahead, because they're getting their full quota of these games here. So why shouldn't somebody else abroad get a chance? Supporters are all over the world for these two teams, and I just think it'll be a tremendous occasion. I'm sure, having been over in Australia, and know the expats that are there, they just love shows like us. I mean, you've seen the guys who they just want to be kept in touch, but now they're getting a chance to see their teams in the flesh, and it can only be good for me.
Yeah, I think they're going to enjoy it. Okay, thanks for the messages. You can do that on the PLZ Soccer app when you download it as well. And thank you to so many people who join us to get their thoughts on the football at the weekend as well. Ryan Taylor's joined us, Gaz, John Wallace, James Dempster, Kevin, Kenny Whitson, Elizabeth Clark, Paul McLaren, Helen Feeks, who's a regular from Central Scotland. Helen, we are very happy. Tommy Adams, who's in Thailand, he's joined us as well. And James Dock, who says, afternoon guys, the Jags are going up. It's always good when you get something like that. And Hugh Scott says, afternoon guys, and Alison. So there you are. See, somebody likes to saying hello to them as well now, Ali. That'll not last. so
not as the show goes on.
No, absolutely not. There's usually a bit of pelters for you later on once you open your mouth. so with that in mind, the one thing that I think is, at this moment, the sensible thing to do is UEFA's president, Alexander Seferin, has said, look, the Scotland-Ukraine game is going to be pushed back to June, which is, I think, a good move for everyone concerned.
I think it's quite optimistic, actually, to think that even by June we might be in a position to play it, or rather that Ukraine might be in a position to play it. I think you would hope that there might have been some resolution by then. You would hope for an imminent peaceful solution. I don't know that it's realistic or not, but I think certainly there was no way that the game could go ahead when it was originally scheduled for, and if it's played by June, I think you'd be doing well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there might be another major decision to make by then. Other stories that were coming out in the press over the weekend, I looked on with great interest. Sometimes I think, unless you know the real discussion between a manager and a player, Jim Goodwin will have had a chat with Scott Brown at some point. The suggestion is that he's going to assess his future in the summer. I think he would have assessed his future in the summer, even if Stephen Glass was still there.
Yeah, I think he will. I think he'll be looking to go into his coaching career. I think he's now realising that his career's coming to an end. He's had a glittering career at Celtic, and now he's thinking ahead to probably coaching, and I don't think he's going to get a lot of opportunities up there now with Jim Goodwin coming in. I think Jim wants to do all the training, him and Lee Sharp. So I think if Brownie could have left with Glassy, he probably would have, but because he had a 2-year deal, he's there as a player. So I think in the summer that he'll make a decision on his football career, whether he plays on for another year or whether he chucks it and tries to go into coaching.
Yeah, I can't see him playing on, Roofe. I think possibly because it's been so difficult up there at Aberdeen. I think he'll look at it and say, okay, Jim will want to be his own man. He doesn't need me around, and maybe I want to be my own man as well.
No, I found a strange move right at the very start. It was muted he was going to go to Australia or something like that. I thought that would have been a better move for him. And the family thing, getting away from everything with Celtic and everything that went with, a fresh start, learn his trade over there and come back again. I thought the Aberdeen was a really strange one for the start.
Yeah, my gut feeling on this, there's a couple of people in the background who are taking their badges, and I think Scott will one day, I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to think that he would hope there's a path all the way back to Celtic as he continues his coaching career. You can never second guess whether a great player is going to be a good coach.
I think he's never made any secret of the fact that he wanted to pursue it, that he wanted to give it a go and see where it went. I think the association with Celtic is so long. Was that 14 years? A decorated player, and as Tam said, a pretty successful and glittering career. I think there was an option possibly last year to maybe pursue some kind of coaching role, but he wanted to go up to Aberdeen with Stephen Glass and maybe make a fresh start. But I think if the coaching element is successful, I definitely think there would be a pathway back at some point to Celtic Park.
Yeah, it's never been easy. I don't think he's been the real, you couldn't look at Scott Brown and say, he's the reason why they've failed so miserably up at Aberdeen. I think there are other players that would be in the firing line long before him.
No, I think he's done well at Aberdeen. I speak to a few Aberdeen supporters up there and they all say that he's played well this season. He's still got a lot in the legs, whether he's playing as a sweeper or he's playing centre midfield. I don't think he's been the problem. I think the problem has been the back four and not having a consistent back four, and defensively been poor. So I think that Scott, if he decides to play another year, I think he's definitely got another year in the Premiership, but it's up to him. Maybe an opportunity will come up in the summer for him to go and be a coach somewhere, or a number two, or his own man. So it's a big decision for him.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing, Roofe, is Neil Lennon always linked with 1,000,001 jobs. The latest one is Cypriot side Ammonia Nicosia. I'm not sure that will happen. I can't see him heading out to Cyprus unless, plus of course factor 50. He'll get burnt to a cinder. He's jumping up and down in the trackside there, won't he?
Have to a lot of after sun on his wee ginger head. I shouldn't have said that. He's got to our game tomorrow night. He's got to get back. Obviously.
He get back there.
No, but you don't know what else is on the table. You don't know, what. I know for a fact he has been, been interested in a few things.
Yeah.
But nothing's obviously came. So it's just all about him, you know, what he wants. You know, you've got to think his family as well in these kind of decisions. But it's not a great league. I know what you're trying to say, but I don't know what else is really on the table in front of him.
He was linked to Leyton Orient last week, wasn't he?
Yeah, Leyton Orient, the Republic of Ireland, all of these things are in the mix. But sometimes I think the summer's probably a better time to assess where you are. Amazingly, there's only about 8 games to go anyway, Ali. So, you know, that's the perfect time where some people look and think, okay, we're going to make a major change. Maybe he could be in the running for a bigger job. Yeah,
I think he's probably quite enjoyed a few months out of it too. Just it was so intense towards the end of his time at Celtic and so nasty at points of it. I think that he would have left with quite a sour taste in his mouth. So I think it's important just to recalibrate, maybe just to take a bit of time out of it. And I'm sure now he'll be itching to get back into it. And I think he does have stuff to offer. I think he definitely has something to offer a team.
Okay, thanks to so many of you who have posted messages. I, for the first time in quite a while actually, missed out on a game at the weekend and I was walking through Glasgow and met so many people. It was unbelievable. I mean, I think my daughter was going to stiffen me at one point, because I couldn't go 20 yards without somebody stopping me to mention certain things. So I'm going to give a special mention to a wee guy called Martin, who just was sitting under the arches in Royal Exchange Square. Great lad, watches the show on his phone all the time, and he said, would you give me a mention, Peter? And I absolutely will, Martin. Thanks for watching the show. I really appreciate it. We also were going down Buchanan Street and we get stopped by a guy called James, and I wish I could remember his partner in crime, but James is blind, so he goes to the Rangers games. He listens to our show on the podcast, Roofe, and his sidekick, who obviously describes the game to him, is a Celtic fan. And I said, come on, how does that work? And he said, I just have to go there, he says, and hope they get beat. He said, so I can commentate to James, and I know James is on a downer. He said, but I'm as high as a kite. And I thought, the last person you want as your co-commentator is a guy who's desperate. It's unbelievable, isn't it? He was raging.
I wonder how many games he's gone away for. He's thought he's won and they've lost.
To be fair, last year it must have been hell for him as a commentator. But James, who obviously can't see, was just he was so complimentary and said, I love the show. And again, I'm going to say I love Roofe. So that's good, isn't it, Roofe?
I'm glad he can't see me then. So it just must be the way I come across on the audio.
It's your
different words you make up.
It's your chat and your banter.
Yes.
He loves you. So James, I mean, it was great. Football fans were stopping and saying they love the show, they watch it, and I thought it was really nice. But those two in particular, James, when his commentator told me that he's a Celtic fan, I thought that is a mix made in heaven. So anyway, James, thank you for that. That was a lovely message, and I know they enjoy the podcast. Thousands of people are listening to the podcast and also downloading the app. So it was a nice touch. Because football fans love their team, they want to talk about them, they want to give us an opinion as well. And at the weekend, last game we watched yesterday was Livingston against Celtic, because I think, Ali, before we talk about the Saturday games, I think Rangers fans would have probably been looking and thinking, okay, you know, we've managed to get through a tough 1-0 win over Aberdeen, game on at Livingston, because Celtic, that's their bogey team.
Yeah, I think so. I think they've been very sticky opponents for Celtic, both in Almond Vale and even at Celtic Park. I think that was the first time Ange Postecoglou's beat them in 3 attempts. I think the hoodoo is something of a misnomer, the 15-year thing, because you have to remember that Livingston were out of the top flight for 12 years. But
that's you scalped Bonzo, because he thought it was a start from heaven, didn't he? Oh, I've been doing my research. They haven't won for 15 years.
Research, Roofe.
Yeah, it was such a long time, but they haven't been in the league.
Yeah, but I think they definitely there would have been all eyes yesterday on that game, because if you think there's going to be a hiccup for Celtic, then that's maybe where it was going to be. And I thought they played very differently from how they have in recent weeks. I thought there was a return of the tempo that's maybe been absent since that game at Fir Park. I thought from middle to front they were very good. I would take the point. I think the first goal could have been a by kick. I didn't think it was a corner. But I think overall Celtic were comprehensive in the performance throughout the 90 minutes. I thought they merited the 3 points and a bit more.
Yeah, and of course everybody's looking at amazingly the two Forrest brothers. Alan Forrest's been ripping it up for Livingston, but James Forrest, I think when people look back over his career and his contribution to Celtic, will maybe reassess being so harsh on him, because when he's in the side, he contributes so much to that team, and when he was out, people really realised what they were missing.
It's a lot of stick for Celtic supporters. I don't understand it at all. I think after the European game over in Norway, he was getting so much pelter saying he was finished, his legs had gone. But that goal yesterday, his legs certainly hadn't gone yesterday. Great run through the middle, outpaced the defender and great finish with his left foot. I think he's still got a lot to offer Celtic, but he seems to be the kind of whipping boy at the minute with the supporters. They've always won, and it seems to be James Forrest. But as you said, I think when you look back over his career, when he finishes and retires, I think he's up there with the very best of them with the amount of trophies he's won for Celtic.
Yeah, well, and the Celtic team just now, would he be the longest serving player?
Yes.
James Forrest.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And I think somebody was telling me he's scored about 100 goals.
He's 96. He's
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, Ange Postecoglou likes him.
The quality he has always been there, and for me, it's just, I've had to be patient just for when I can throw him in there, because I know he can certainly help us, and he's one of the more experienced ones. He's had a lot of success at this football club. He's a winner, and we're going to need those types with what's ahead of us.
Yeah, he scored in 13 consecutive top-flight seasons for Celtic with that goal yesterday. Apologies to anybody who thought Roofe was maybe changing the overall way he is as a pundit on the show by offering stats. He has actually tried that before, Ali, I have to tell you. There was one day when we were on the Saturday programme with Frank McAvenny and Gordon Smith, and suddenly, as I'm sitting in the studio, he comes out with about 6 stats, which Macca looked at me and I looked at Macca and then Gordon Smith, and we thought, well, he could read Gordon's notes, which he was prone to do, but he'd come out with these 6 stats that clearly somebody had fed him. And then we went into the commercial break time and I checked all of them. It was just a pile of nonsense. And I thought to myself, why did you even bother? But
no, my best one, I thought I'd done, somebody said, my best one was the boy. Was it Rooney, the boy who played with Aberdeen?
Yeah, Adam Rooney.
I said, he's scoring goals for fun. Why don't we have a look at him for the Scotland team?
Anyway, you're not the first or the last to make that mistake, but let me tell you. But yeah, listen, Celtic got the win. They were at it right from the start. You could tell the pressing closing down Livy. They were not there to fall foul of what I think they've fallen foul of before, which is Livy imposing their game plan on them.
Yeah, Celtic started the game really, really strongly. I think they got at Livingston early doors. I think it was a massive game. I think a lot of people were expecting Livingston to get a result out of that game, but Celtic put it to bed in the first half. Maeda gets a header, gets a great start. And then they get the goal straight after half time. So, listen, I think it was a brilliant performance from Celtic, and I think when you look at that over the course of the season, if Celtic win the league, they'll look back in this yesterday and think that was a big moment in the title race. As you said, Rangers fans would have been expecting, hoping Livingston would have taken something from the game, but Celtic were excellent, 3-1. Put that hoodoo to bed.
Yeah, here's a little stat from Ange Postecoglou's first 50 games in charge to Neil Lennon and Brendan Rodgers. 35 wins, 5 draws, 10 defeats. Neil had 40 with 6 draws and 4 defeats, and Brendan 38, 7 and 5. So it stacks up there. It's up there with the best of them. I think the defeats is probably the thing that rankles with him. But at the start, he's coming in late and trying to get a team that's not his.
Yeah, I think it was a fairly chaotic summer in terms of trying to organise a rebuild and bring players in. If you think Kyogo Furuhashi came in the day of the Hearts game, the opening day of the season, flew up and was on the bench that night. I think it does take a bit of time just to find your feet and bring in players that you want to. I think he's always going to be judged over the course of a couple of transfer windows, and I think you would have to applaud the job that he's done in a relatively short space of time, where Celtic were this point a year ago, where they were at the end of the season, and where they are now, competing again for the title, and even the shift from the turn of the year to be 6 points behind to now have a 3-point cushion going into the latter stages. I think Celtic fans would have bitten your hand off for that at New Year. Yeah, well, for every high of a manager happy with a win, there's got to be a manager who's far from happy, and that was Livingston boss David Martindale.
2 big decisions went against us. It led to 2 goals. Actually disappointing aspect, yeah, we've got to defend our area a wee bit better. I think for the first one it was a blatant by kick. Bobby was the fourth and the linesman were saying they're telling Nick it was a by kick, but the corner goes against you. But you still got to defend the corner a lot better than what we did. The second goal, it's a handball with Rogic in the middle of the park and Nick's there standing watching it and we don't really get that. But again, we've still got to defend the area a wee bit better than what we did.
Yeah, so clearly not happy with the two goals. But again, as Alison mentioned, David Martindale's not one that makes excuses anyway.
No, I think at the end of the day, he knew he was outplayed. You know, I think Celtic were very, very good in large parts of the game. But when you're a manager on the opposite side and you know you're coming up against a better side, you look at these wee moments and you say, well, what if they never got that? What if they never got that? I think it would be even worse if McGregor had scored the penalty, because I didn't think that was a penalty either. You know, so these are the things you sort of hang on to. But I think, as Ali said, at the end, he was very gracious, doesn't he? He said they were a better side than us and they played some super football. Yeah, okay, that was Livingston 1, Celtic 3 from the Sunday. On the Saturday, Rangers edged it by a goal. Doesn't matter whether you score that goal in the first minute or the last minute. Roofe was the man to get the goal. And sometimes, you know what it's like, managers, you know, when they decide to make a substitution, the fans are not happy with it. They started booing with Morelos coming off. But the manager was vindicated by the goal from Roofe. Yeah, it was a big call, you know, to take Morelos off, you know, you're needing a goal. You know, it was a brave call from the manager, but as you said, it paid off. You know, managers live and die by their decisions, and that was a great decision. You know, he came on and scored the winning goal. I think it was a goal. I know Aberdeen were more than maybe a possible foul, but for me it wasn't a foul. I think Rangers overall probably deserved to win the game as well, so that was a big result. Rangers seem to just be eking out results at the minute. I don't think they're playing particularly well, but at this stage of the season, it's just about winning, taking the 3 points off and going into the next game, so they'll be delighted with the win. Yeah, Giovanni van Bronckhorst had this to say about the result overall. It was a game with 2 faces. In the first half, Aberdeen gave us a big challenge. They played well, had a lot of duels, and it was not easy for us to build and find the right solutions. We were on the ball, but not able to pass it forward like we normally do. The second half, it was a different game. We had a better tempo. We stretched the pitch. We passed better and played forward. I said to the players that a game lasts 90 minutes, and if you score within 90 minutes and extra time, you win games. Well, they certainly won. It wasn't a classic goal to remember. It was an important goal, though. But if Giovanni van Bronckhorst was happy with that slender win that drew them level with Celtic on the Saturday, Jim Goodwin will be looking at it and thinking to himself, okay, it was one of those games where maybe Aberdeen weren't expected to win it, Andrew Shiny, but did they give enough of a good account of themselves to suggest to you that, again, that curve of going in the right direction is still there?
Possibly. I think it was one of those situations where it's a side with very fragile confidence heading to Ibrox, and if you'd gone gung-ho and suffered a heavy defeat, that confidence would have taken an even bigger battering. And to be honest, Aberdeen aren't good enough to go gung-ho against a side of the quality of Rangers. But there was a better structure to the team. I thought in the middle of the park they were quite decent. Ross McCrory being back there made a difference. Young Connor Barden again enhanced his reputation with a fine display. But up front, Aberdeen were absolutely powder puff. Nothing at all from the front three. So it was a case of could you manage to hang on? And regarding the Calvin v Calvin interface, I must admit, my first view, I thought that's a free kick to Aberdeen, but having seen it again, it would have been very soft. But having said that, had it been given the other way at the other end of the park, we'd never have heard the end of it.
Yeah, well, that's the great joy. That's the great joy of being an Elgin man, having to put up with a strong West of Scotland bias. Andrew, don't worry. I lived in Edinburgh for 12 years and sampled it big time. You can never win that argument because the biggest support always makes the biggest noise as well. With that in mind, a lot of speculation down here that Jim Goodwin left Scott Brown out of the side and that he might be contemplating his future. What have you heard?
Well, he was asked the question at the end of the game, what was the problem with Scott Brown? And he said, look, he came back, he played for 70 odd minutes at Tynecastle, but he's just back from an injury. We didn't want to risk it. It was going to be a high tempo game. As it turned out, it wasn't particularly high tempo, but it was a game where you had to do an awful lot of running. I think Jim Goodwin felt that Scott Brown wasn't ready. He said he spoke to the player. He agreed with his view. The Jungle Drums have been beating up here about there being a big fallout between the two. I don't know if that is the case, but it's interesting listening to Jim Goodwin talking about how he sees Ross McCrory as his most vital player. And maybe Scott Brown felt, look, I've still got another year in my contract. I could be the player that you could build a side around for a year, because it's going to be another transitional year next year, depending on where Aberdeen are. I know what Tam was saying. You know, he's got a decision to make at the end of this season. Does he want to carry on playing? Does he want to pursue things elsewhere? And I have a sneaking suspicion that Scott maybe is ambitious enough that he wants to go and try his luck somewhere else other than Aberdeen at the moment.
Yeah. Can I ask you if you share that view that Brown really is one of those players that will not be at the front of the queue for the huge criticism that Aberdeen have had for their performances this season? Are there others that really should be worthy of more flack? Is he in the firing line too?
No, I don't think Scott Brown's in the firing line at all. I think he took to the club, he took to the fans, and vice versa superbly well. When you consider his past, he was a player that Aberdeen fans hated because I think they respected him, and now that he's an Aberdeen player, they respect him even more. Aberdeen's big problem has been, as Tam said, total lack of consistency about the defence. They've flogged far too many cheap goals. But Aberdeen have used 30 players in league games this season. 30 players. 28 players have started games. And when I look through my stats, I can identify where one of the biggest problems is. Andrew Considine has played 2 games this season. He is the glue that has held the Aberdeen defence together for the last 3 or 4 years, if not longer. Without him, they'll look all over the place. I think if Andy Considine had been in place all the way through the season, it would be enjoying a much different outcome.
Yeah, and just before you go, Andrew, I'm looking now, Scottish Cup quarter-final action will be at the forefront of everybody's minds. For Aberdeen, it's Hibs, Dundee and Ross County before the split. When you consider now Ross County are suddenly looking up the way, top 6, Aberdeen just, I don't think they're in any way going to be hitting the playoffs, but it's been such a poor season. Jim Goodwin, I think, is going to clear that place out.
Oh, I think so. I think it's needed, to be perfectly honest. Whatever has gone wrong this season, I think it has tainted players, and fresh faces are needed to reinvigorate the club. The next 3 games are massive, and I think, being out the Scottish Cup could be a blessing in disguise for Aberdeen, because it gives Jim and Lee Sharp 2 weeks to work with the players on the training ground at Cormack Park to get their message firmly drummed into the players. I think we've seen signs. I mean, defensively, they were solid at Ibrox on Saturday. I mean, Rangers had 2 shots on target, and the first one came from Ryan Jack in the 71st minute. So they weren't as bad as they've been this season, but they've got to keep that going and improve it going into these next 3 games, because they definitely fall into the must-win category. I think they've got a chance against Hibs, because Hibs just can't score. They must beat Dundee down at Dens Park, simple as that. Then they've got Ross County at Pittodrie. That will be a really difficult task, because Malky Mackay has got that machine purring up there. Reagan Charles Cook and Joseph Hungbo are leading that side forward like nobody would have thought 4 months ago. So that's going to be the hardest of the 3 games. But, maybe 7 points out of 9 might get them into the top 6. But to be honest, that is the height of Aberdeen's ambitions now.
Yeah, absolutely. Andrew, as ever, always good to speak to you about these issues, keeping us abreast of things that are happening with Aberdeen. Thanks to Andrew Shiney. It ended 1-0 in Rangers' favour. Just out of curiosity, when you look at these games now, there's 8 to go. Is it coming down to, in your mind, Tam, the Rangers Celtic games, or do you think there's a slip up elsewhere? I know Roofe thinks all home games, both of them are going to win them.
I probably agree with that. I think that both teams at home will probably win all their games, but
will they win against Celtic?
I'm not so sure.
So they won't win all their home games.
Well, I know Rangers obviously got Celtic coming up at home, but listen, that's probably going to be decided in the Old Firm games. I think we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago. I think those games are going to be massive for both clubs. They've obviously got to play each other at home, and I think those will decide where the league title's going.
Yeah. Do you think that, Ali?
I think it's too early to say it. I think if you look at the evidence that's presented yourself from the turn of the year, Celtic dropped points at Easter Road last weekend. Rangers have dropped a lot of points since the turn of the year. I think were Rangers to have one more slip before you go into that game, then I think the psychology of it is very, very different to what it is now. I think it's just too early to call it, and I think it's too tight to call it too.
Yeah, it's interesting, because quite simply, again, Roofe, you've got Rangers against Red Star Belgrade on Thursday, and then, and this is off the back of a Scottish Cup quarter-final tie against Dundee, so it's hectic. And, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst might want to, I'm not suggesting for a minute he'll play a weaker side against Dundee, but he might want to tinker with a few just to make sure that they're ready for the one game they have before they come up against Celtic.
Yeah, I think both the Rangers and Celtic managers have always said it's a difficult one coming off a European game. So we've saw Rangers coming off a European game and Celtic as well. They don't win the games as comfortable as what they usually do. So the 3 games before the split will be interesting. I thought last week you were going to tell us what the 3 were.
Well, it's Rangers Red Star, then it's Dundee in the Cup, and then you've got League. Red Star away, and then you've got Dundee against Rangers, which is March 20th, and then the 3rd of April is Rangers Celtic.
And the last one for the split?
St Mirren Rangers.
Okay.
I think the European games can work in your favour. I think if you come off with a big result, sometimes it can give a side a lift. I think it can imbue you with a certain level of confidence and belief going into games, and you take the momentum. The converse, of course, is that if you come off and it's a poor result, a poor performance, you're picking up injuries, all of a sudden there's a sense of deflation around the squad. I think very much it can depend on the performance and the result in the European games.
So is the last Rangers Celtic game going to be Parkhead?
Yes.
But we don't know who's getting the 3 home games and who's getting the 2 away ones.
I think Rangers may well have the most of the away games, the way the things are all going to pan out. But if it doesn't pan out that way, then there'll be a full investigation into the guy. It's no longer Ian Blair, although I think Ian still guides them a wee bit on it. But
I think it depends who gets in the top 6, isn't it?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Who gets in there, if you've played them.
If Aberdeen were to get in, I think it would alter it again.
Right.
But there's a few permutations. But certainly, who the hell would want to do the fixtures? That would do your boxing. That's one of the least favourite jobs. I used to look at Ian Blair and I think, that's not a job that I'd want to do. You get it in the neck because you're trying to be fair.
Traffic warden, isn't it?
Well, absolutely, yeah. You can't, because people always think the negative thoughts on it, but there's a computer element to it, and then there's a human element that has to come in to try and tweak it to be fair. But not when you've got them going head to head with each other and so little between them as far as points are concerned.
Also have a big decision then, if it's as tight as what it is when you play the Celtic Rangers game. Do you play it nearer the start of the 6-game split, or do you try and prolong it to the end and hope that it's been settled?
And there's another thing, Ali. Only in this country can we not have a decider between the 2 top teams.
Absolutely.
That just shows you how stupid this country is, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it highlights how badly the fans behave. As a country, we can't behave ourselves, and we can't even have a big game. Can you imagine trying to sell it and you can't have a big playoff between the top 2 sides?
I think you can have it. I have to say, I think you can have it, and I think the vast majority of fans, I know there have been aberrations down through the years, but every country has that at times. Scotland aren't the only country that have had red cards and rammies at games and arguments with fans. I think by far and away, if you look at the stats over the amount of games that are played 90% probably pass without any real incident. I think you should be looking to market it as a big occasion.
It's the last game of the season, Rangers and Celtic. I think it'd be mental.
Not necessarily the last game of the season, but I think you could push it on.
If it was a league decider, it's the one and only time, I have to tell you, and I've been in some scary places, I have to tell you, I've been in the Red Star Belgrade Stadium when the Ultras were just leathering people and there was firecrackers going off. I've been in, Milan derbies. There's probably only one derby that I haven't been to that I would like to go to, Roofe, but I'd obviously have to go there in riot gear, which is River Plate versus Boca Juniors. I think I'd like to go to that game, but as far as the only game I've ever been in a press box where I've genuinely, had a really uneasy, scary feeling was the day Rangers won the title at Celtic Park. There was too many elements for it. Well, one was the huddle, two was the conduct of Stephen Mahy, who I think he tried to tackle one of the Rangers players waist high. There was obviously the fan jumping off the top tier for a pie, and then there was the coin incident. The whole thing was just a powder keg.
It was
scary, wasn't it?
That was the first ever Celtic Rangers game I covered.
You've just killed that game.
So it's going to be the first game of split in, Peter.
Genuinely,
You've really talked up, have you?
Do you remember? I mean, I was actually in there, and I thought to myself, that there is a real scary element to this game.
It was the first game I ever worked at. It was the first Celtic Rangers game I covered professionally, and I remember, I think it was a 6:05 kick-off, bank holiday weekend. Got there fairly early because I knew it would be busy, and even about 4 o'clock, there was a very particular atmosphere around the city, around the stadium. It felt fairly toxic, and I worked for a firm where the head office were in Leeds, and they were phoning me at half time to say, "Are you safe? Are you all right?" Because I think they had a sense of just how manic it was. Got back to my car, and the car next to me had a brick through the window in the actual press car parking area. It was a toxic game, and I don't know that there's ever been another one quite like that. And when you talk about deciders and playing the game, there were a number of factors in that one. It was an evening game of a bank holiday, summer weekend. The weather had been quite nice. People drinking from early on. I think there are different ways to do it. I think if you look, since then you've had decisive cup finals. You've had the two teams coming together, maybe at Hampden and other games. I think there are other elements that you can control round about it, such as a kick-off time. The earlier kick-off time probably prevents too much pre-match drinking. Yeah,
I agree with you, Ali. I got early. I decided to go early to that game. I headed out on the Thursday and parked the car. It was absolutely mental. But I don't think that's going to happen. We shall wait and we shall see how it all pans out. But thanks very much to so many of you who obviously remember that game. As far as the other matches were concerned, at the bottom end, Motherwell 1, Dundee 1. Dundee into the lead early in this one. Is he starting to get a response out of Dundee? You look at the previous games, slowly but surely you think Mark McGee is he having an impact?
Well, certainly the evidence of the points he's picking up is better than what it's been, so the players have to believe in what he's doing, and results do that. He's got a big one with St Mirren, and if he was to get 3 points in that one, the players and him will start believing there's maybe a chance, but they've got to keep winning games.
Yeah, Mark McGee himself reckons he is getting a response from the players.
We wanted to come to a point where I felt as if they were responding, clearly we thought they were before the Livingston game, and then we lose 3 goals in the first 20 minutes, so you start to think, really, have we engaged them yet? So the two performances now, and the reaction in the dressing room, the reaction around the training ground, kind of says to us, right, now we're starting to build a relationship, and we will start to take pride in the performances.
Yeah, I'm going to head up to Dens Park on Wednesday. It's massive for them against St Mirren, that game in hand.
Yep, a chance to go above St Johnstone again. I think that's always crucial when it's probably between the two teams now, to see who finishes bottom and second bottom. So it's a huge game, it's a game in hand. I don't think St Johnstone and Dundee are going to win a lot of games between now and the end of the season, so 3 points is absolutely crucial. And as you said, they've started to pick up a couple of points here and there, been harder to beat. Against Hibs a draw, and then against away to Motherwell, 2 teams that will be going for the top 6. So I think he's getting a wee bit of a response out of them, but that's a huge game for Dundee at home. You've got to be looking to win that.
Yeah, absolutely. So after that, it's Rangers in the Cup.
Twice, yeah.
Rangers then again back at Dens Park for the league game, and then they've got Aberdeen and Dundee United. So you're wondering if they're going to get points, you know. They're going to have to get the St Mirren one first and foremost and hope that St Johnstone are suffering a similar fate.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's fraught for both of them now where they are. I think they're fighting for their lives. I think essentially at home you need to be trying to pick up something, definitely from your home games. But having seen Dundee a few times over the last few weeks, I think they look like a team lacking in confidence. They look as though they're lacking belief still.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they fare in the game. Motherwell, it's a strange season for Motherwell. Started so well, looked as if Alexander was getting, you know, a real performance out of them week in, week out. People looking at fourth, possibly even thinking about third earlier on, but it just seems to be fizzling out. And I think Graham Alexander, week in, week out, is getting frustrated by what he's watching as we approach the end of the season.
We've had a cracking first 2/3 of the season, where we've raised expectations and hopes and shown what a good team we are, and we found the last couple of months a difficult period. I wouldn't even say the last couple of months, because I felt that we've played well in certain games that we should have won, but the last two games have been a big disappointment.
Yeah, he's not too happy with it. It was a similar thing he said in the previous game as well, trying to get something out of Motherwell, but they're not in any capacity worrying about the bottom half of the table. I think he'd still like to keep them in the top six though, Tam.
Yeah, I don't think they've won a game, 10 games without a win, something like that, some record they're on. So it's not been a great run they're on, but as you said, they're still in that top six at the minute, and you know, Hibs, I think, will come into them in a minute, 1 win in 10, and they're still sitting in fourth. So I mean, I don't know if that says a lot about the quality of the league, to be honest. Teams that are struggling to win a game are still sitting, you know, in a good position. So both of them play each other in the Cup, Motherwell v Hibs, so that's a big game for both again at the weekend.
Yeah, it's amazing that stat, because even if Motherwell could get one win, it would catapult them back into the top six again. You're looking in that middle section there and you're saying to yourself, from Aberdeen all the way up to Hibernian, there's 5 points.
Yeah, I think there's any team that can piece together any sequence of positive results could elevate themselves quite quickly.
Yeah, Motherwell 8th at the moment, and desperately need to try and get 3 points from somewhere, but they'll be stuck in that middle section. Don't think they'll be too worried about anything that's going on below them, but you know, if they can make a surge, as Ali said, somebody could be thinking about Europe. One of them is almost certainly Ross County at Roofe. Every week somebody starts to pull out a run of results where the predictor takes a wild swing. I don't think any of us thought it was going to be Tam Cowan. What a howitzer of a prediction weekend he had.
And if he hadn't that stupid Motherwell prediction, you know, he might have had the full quota.
5-0.
Yeah, 5-0 Motherwell.
Yeah.
You know, which has been a wee bit thingy, but
he had 20 points.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, if he did put in a reasonable, sensible result for Motherwell, he might have had more than that. But certainly, you know, he's got the people who were just above him now panicking a wee bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's getting unbelievably tight. But Ross County 1, St Mirren 0 was a prediction from him. Suddenly Ross County are thinking, hey, a wee surge of what Ali was talking about. They could be thinking about European football, never mind relegation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a couple of points or a point off of fourth now. So three wins in a week, massive, 9 points in the week. You know, it's just brilliant achievement for Ross County. They've went from possibly looking over their shoulder to looking up the table, and fair play to Malky Mackay. We speak about him every week on here. You know, he's a very, very good manager, and the Aberdeen job came up, I think I'd mentioned him. Why is he not getting mentioned for the Aberdeen job? Obviously because he's passed, but I think he's proven this season that he's a top manager, and if he can get Ross County fourth this season, you know, he's been running for manager of the year as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, Stephen Robinson, the worst time to take over a club, unbeaten in 8 now, without a win in 4.
Yeah, I know, and I thought they were doing well, you know, before the change of the manager. I thought they were playing pretty tight at the back. Goalkeeper was top for them, and they were scoring goals. So yeah, it's a sore one, but you just got to hang on in there. just hang on in there till he gets it changed to what he wants.
Yeah, what's the score with the High Bees? Have they completely and utterly lost it, or were St Johnstone just really more solid against them at the weekend?
It's just a poor game of football, to be honest with you, Peter. I'm sitting, I was bored at my skull, you know, and
Did you take the wage after it? You were happy?
yeah, I did. I took my wage, aye. But no, it wasn't a great fare. It needed a goal early. He opened it up. I think both teams were solid defensively, and neither goalkeeper had much to do, to be honest. The biggest talking point was obviously the red card, which should have been a red card for McPherson over the ball and Jake Doyle-Hayes. Apart from that, you know, and they let down a big crowd there. And I was speaking to some of the marketing people after the game, and they were gutted because they're doing everything they can to try and get fans in the door.
Yeah,
you know, it was a fiver to get in. There was about 19,000, 20,000 there.
Can you cut them some slack on the basis that Hibs have got about 11?
I can. Yeah, I was going to go into that. Listen, I've got 11 players out, and it's 11 starters. You know, I go through the team. Matt Macy, the goalkeeper. Paul Hanlon would play. Paul McGinn would play. Joe Newell would play. McManus would play. Nisbet would play. The lad they signed for Ross County, the fullback, would play.
Yeah.
So they're missing a lot of players, and it's showing at the minute. They don't look like scoring. I think 8 of the last 10 games Hibs have failed to score in 3-0 in a row. I can't remember in my time, even Ruffy's time, Hibs going through such a bad spell in front of goal.
Yeah, I can. Ruffy, I think, played in it. Was one of the worst sequences of Scottish Cup finals in the history of the Scottish Cup finals. It was the biggest pile of nonsense I've ever watched in my life. 0-0s, 79. I think there was 2 replays. Did you play
I wasn't there.
You weren't there.
No, I wasn't there.
Clean sheet
was terrible.
He wasn't there.
It was terrible. It kept replaying. It was just terrible.
Yeah.
But can you remember 3-0-0s, Ruffy?
No, I've been playing now.
No, there's always guaranteed.
I can't remember Hibs having 3-0-0s in a row in the league. Somebody would maybe come up with a stat. I was watching the show. But the last time Hibs had 3-0-0s, because Hibs have always been a team that traditionally scores a lot of goals and ships a lot of goals.
Yeah.
You know, one of their teams, but at the minute it's tough to watch.
Yeah, Dundee United 2, Hearts 2 as well, Ruffy. Good game.
Good goals.
Yeah, good goals. Liam Boyce.
Very good goal. And the Dundee United goal was a good one as well. But again, Craig Gordon showing his worth, but the throw out for the goal was spot on. He saw that then when everybody else was just sort of picking himself off the ground. So no, I thought that. I mean, Dundee United seem to be the draw specialists. They got 2 goals, which I never think they've got in them. They've all usually got 1 goal in them, and then all fight for each other. But no, that looked like a good game to be at. Yeah,
Liam Smith's goal was a good goal for United.
Oh, cracker. Great goal, great strike for edge of the box, and so was Boyce on his probably weaker left side and off the post. 2 great goals. And as Ruffy said, an entertaining game with plenty of goals, something that hopefully I'll get soon.
Yeah, absolutely. We will all be texting you hoping that is. And if you want to see goals, then go elsewhere. It's as simple as that. Here's the Premiership table in Scotland. How do you see it going at top and bottom? Celtic still with that 3-point advantage. I wonder, Ali, goal difference? Could that come into play if there was any slip up? Because Celtic have a superior goal difference.
Yeah, I think that can diminish quite quickly if you have one team who goes and thumps someone 4 or 5-0. I think both teams will be just trying to concentrate on points. I think once you get distracted by that, you really take your eye off the ball. I'm sure it might be bubbling away in the background, but I think the focus is just on winning games and trying to pick up points.
Yeah, so if the top is tight, Hearts and that kind of a easy street in 3rd place, Ruffy, but at the bottom end, Aberdeen is still 8 points ahead of St Johnstone, so I don't think there's anything there.
Well, you could say that. No,
Dundee could win and go 7 points behind them.
Yeah, you could say that, but if Aberdeen, stop winning games, when it comes to the split, if they're in that split, there's 15 points, up for state. And if you're not winning games, and teams in that 5 are winning them, you could easily make it really, really worrying time, if they don't start scoring goals and winning games.
Well, I said this, I think I mentioned this before, Peter, when I was at Dundee. The game before the split, we beat Dunfermline to go 12 points, clear the bottom.
Yeah.
And we went into the split in the last 5 games, we picked up 1 point and get relegated by a point. So Ruffy's right, once you get into that top 6, bottom 6 battle, and even if you're 8 or 10 points clear and you don't pick up any wins or any points, you can get caught. And so Aberdeen still need to get a couple of wins, I think.
Yeah, 6 defeats and 4 draws in their last 10 games.
Yeah, it's been a desperate season. It really has, and I think you start to worry about what the effect of that is. I think you have to stabilise very quickly. I think it's about picking up points by whatever means possible. I think it's just about scrapping to make sure that you survive in the league and then you rebuild and go again next season.
Have they got 3 hard games?
Who?
Aberdeen for the split.
They've got Hibs, Dundee and Ross County.
So 2 then.
2 at
Dundee,
home,
Ross
1
County.
away.
2 at home and Dundee away. So guaranteed
Guaranteed a draw at 0-0 against Hibs.
a draw against Hibs, and then Dundee Aberdeen. I wouldn't even begin to bet on that. And I'll tell you, you wouldn't bet against Ross County going to Aberdeen and taking all 3 points. They've got better players right now, I think, than Aberdeen.
Current form, they've got players that are in form. You know, they have players with a bit of belief that are playing with conviction, that are scoring goals.
Yeah.
Top goal scorer in the league.
Well, Hungbo and Charles Regan-Cook would walk into that Aberdeen side.
Been excellent. 2 of them have had a really pretty sensational season.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's the predictor table. It's getting tight. Suddenly, everybody is super close. Tam Cowan has made a real surge for it now. 232 to 237. He's only 5 points behind Hugh McDonald, and then 238, 6 points ahead of him is Tam McManus, and then 245. I'm just 6 points behind Alison McConnell, who's on 251, and then 255 Roofe. I think there's 10 points is easily made up. This is going to be tight. Is it just between me, you and Ali now, Roofe? Or are you going to include McManus in this? Or
Well,
is he just...
we've just seen what happens if you get 20 points.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, and then 20 points could turn it down. I was trying to think 8 games left. I'm trying to think many points are up for grabs, and the chances of yet. I think the average point per week is about 8 or something like that.
Yeah.
So
is it enough for you? I don't think so, Roofe. The other thing about it, which we have noticed, just due to our experience, is I think Ali hit the front too early. It just kind of she just went ahead.
In horse racing terms, she needed blinkers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hang on. Right, look, I was ahead right up until a fortnight ago.
Yeah.
Let's have this conversation at the end.
Oh yeah, there you are. Oh, she's turning into David Martindale. So at the end, you're probably
talk about dodgy past.
Yeah, exactly. Good one, brilliant, Ali. I can't wait to see how it all pans out, Roofe. Are you confident you can maybe snatch it, Roofe?
no, I'm never confident because I haven't won it before, and I'm usually on the losing end. But I'm really thinking I'm not going to be buying a meal this time.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing though. It's suddenly in a situation where I think it could be one of those miserable. See, if you drop down to the bottom, I think you will be inconsolable.
It's a disaster.
Yeah,
You're getting going to China buffet, King.
yeah. But you know the funny thing about it is, it's not so much the fact that you'd have to pay for it; it's the fact that your wife is going to batter you. She'll be raging.
Can you transfer me £300 to take it for a meal? No.
Absolutely.
Do you know where we're going? That might cover the drinks.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be interesting. All a bit of fun. I love it. And one gentleman sent me a message last week, and I meant to mention his name, Roofe, but he said, why can't we have the predictor for the pundits to join in?
I said
the actual viewers to the show, and I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I think it's great that we're doing 6. Why not do 7? A different punter every week.
Yeah.
And they just keep the total going.
No, I'm saying that we get a predictor for the with a big prize at the end of it for the public.
Yeah.
So basically, they get into the predictor as well, and then suddenly we've got this battle where somebody sees exactly where they are in the table.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That would be phenomenal. It would take some doing, but I think if we can pull that off, Roofe, that'll be good going.
That'd be brilliant.
You know,
we could always every year whoever's the bottom just drops it for here.
Yeah,
into another division.
I don't think you've quite grasped what the competition is, but there'll be a prize for the pundit.
Yeah, a big prize
and
at the end.
A prize for the viewer who's in there as well. It would be huge. It would be great. Listen, elsewhere, the English Premier League. There were a few tasty games to look forward to. Of course, the good thing about Arsenal's win, when there's a wee set 2 in it, Roofe, suddenly Kieran Tierney had a clash with the Colombian winger for Watford, and I don't think they were too happy with each other, but eventually Kieran Tierney reverted to the upbringing here in Lanarkshire and just said to him, look, I'll meet you outside for a square go.
Yeah, well, I don't think I'd be picking a fight with a Colombian, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. Well,
what happened to the guy scored an own goal?
to be fair, well, I tell you, that's the saddest thing about it, you know. But to be fair, I'd take Tierney 3 rounds. Yeah, he's from Muirhouse. Muirhouse, you never pick a fight with somebody from Muirhouse. When I was at school,
No.
Oh no, they're a hardy bunch, Ruffy. So to be fair, it'd be a close call. But
I agree with Roofe. I'd fancy Columbia.
yeah, you go for the Colombian, okay. So it's
The cartel will be over.
I get the I get the feeling it's an Indiana Jones moment.
Stereotypes
Where
are
suddenly, who brings a sword to a gunfight?
right,
Yeah, okay. Anyway, I was back in for only a couple of minutes there. Just before we go, Man United against Man City has prompted so many ex-Man United players absolutely filleting Ralph Rangnick's side. Roy Keane, the loudest of all, at times as a pundit, great to listen to, absolutely filleted them, more interested in how their hair looks and how their social media posts are going rather than actually getting on the park and doing the job for United. City tore them apart. Here's what Pep Guardiola and Ralph Rangnick thought of the game.
Well, I have to believe my medical department. Our doctor came to see me a Friday morning before training and told me that Cristiano cannot train because of some problems with his hip flexor. And the same was true on Saturday, and that's why he couldn't be part of the squad.
I don't like the environment. Oh, we are unbeatable. When the people say, "No, it's because City, the others are so bad. The others are so bad," and this is wrong. And believe, like, we are so good. It's not going to happen. What happened in United the last 8-9 years can happen, and quick and immediately.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, Rangnick was responding to the suggestion there's a wee bit of a fallout in the background with Cristiano Ronaldo and the manager. These things happen when you're not winning games, Ruffy, and especially if you lose a derby.
Yeah, and certainly when you've got that kind of player in the dressing room, you don't actually know what's going on in that dressing room. If there is a bond there, or they go about doing their own thing. I think we saw that in the Spurs documentary. You know, there's a lot of different egos walking about, and you're right, when it's not going well it gets worse. So only the people in that dressing room will know what is actually happening, but it's certainly not happening on the park. And your man Maguire, you know, the centre half, unbelievable.
Yeah,
I can't understand how he gets a game for England.
Yeah, what are you talking about me?
No, that's one of your favourites, isn't it, to have a go at?
Yeah, absolutely, because if he's 80 odd million, the game's a bogey. He's never a defender. No. I mean, he's absolutely woeful.
He's one of these defenders that's always there when a goal goes in.
Yeah,
one of these guys who's always in the vicinity.
In the picture.
You let the ball run through his legs in the 6-yard area.
Yeah, he's poor. He's getting it tight off the supporters now, but I felt sorry for McTominay. I don't know if you've seen his interview after the game, you know, and I think he's just about to explode, and he's biting his tongue at the minute.
Yeah.
You know, so many egos in there, and he's a humble, hard-working, you know, character, and if Man United had more guys like him, I think they'd be better off. But there's so much going on behind the scenes there with Pogba, Fernandes, Ronaldo. There's so many egos there.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're just a shambles at the minute.
That's a club that needs a clear out.
Yeah, total clear out.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, apart from anything else, it's between City and Liverpool. I still think there's a wee twist along the way. I still think Liverpool can sneak it.
I think City, probably, for me.
Did you pick City at the start?
I can't actually remember. But,
you can remember you're scoring the head-to-head, can't you?
And City Celtic double, Alisson it was, I remember.
Yeah?
Yep.
Yeah. What about you, Ruffy?
Thanks.
I was Man City.
Man City.
Yeah, were you?
Liverpool not going there and beat them winning.
Yeah, okay.
Did Alisson want the Celtic B team to win the Lowland?
I think I was in a treble. No, she'd accumulate with Stalybridge Celtic as well.
As long as I'm at the top of this predictor league, I'll be happy.
1 minute, yeah, exactly. 1 minute he's giving you a compliment, next minute he's battering you. You just didn't notice that there. Anyway, apart from anything else, the twists and turns are still ahead at the bottom. There's a belter going on Wednesday between Dundee and St Mirren. It's a game I'm really looking forward to. I'm going to head up there. It's got to be one of the coldest stadiums I've ever been at, Ruffy. Is there anything colder than Dens Park?
Arbroath.
Yeah.
Arbroath on a Wednesday night.
Yeah, absolutely.
Falkirk Stadium's freezing and all.
Incidentally, Dick has invited us up to Arbroath. We've got to go up there before the end of the season.
Yeah, for the game?
No, to watch them. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I probably will watch them before the end of the season. I think we've got them at home, but that'd be
You
a
love
bonus.
Dick and all, don't you?
Yeah, he's a
he's
great
a
guy.
good lad,
Super,
great lad,
great speaker.
good speaker. But certainly his team are in the running to win that championship too. Anyway, you get the comment, you'll get opinion. If you hit the subscribe button, you can join the football family. I think we're going to give away a few prizes this week, and I'm almost certain we'll get Pat Nevin out as a 1-to-1 this week for you to enjoy, as well as James McPake this week will assess the Scottish Cup quarter-finalists and give you his prediction of the teams that are going to win those games. You can agree or disagree. That's the joy of this programme. Lots of content as well. Download the PLZ Soccer app, which means you can watch the show live Monday to Friday, and you get all the breaking football stories from Tam, Alison, Roofe and myself, Peter Martin. Thanks for watching.